The firing of John Harbaugh is not just a coaching change. It is a philosophical reset for the Baltimore Ravens, a franchise that has long prided itself on stability, identity, and continuity. When an organization parts ways with a head coach after 18 seasons, especially one who delivered a Super Bowl, consistent winning records, and national credibility, it signals that something deeper than a single losing season has fractured. To understand what this move truly means, you have to look beyond the final 8-9 record and the missed field goal that ended Baltimore's season. This decision was years in the making, shaped by unmet expectations, shifting NFL realities, and a growing sense that the Ravens were stuck in a familiar loop. Good enough to contend, but not good enough to finish the job. From the moment Lamar Jackson emerged as a superstar, the Ravens entered a new competitive phase. Jackson didn't just raise the team's ceiling, he raised its urgency. With a two-time MVP quarterback in his prime, anything short of deep postseason runs begins to feel like failure. That pressure gradually transformed Harbaugh's resume from impressive to insufficient. Harbaugh's greatest strength had always been culture. He created a locker room that was resilient, disciplined, and respected across the league. Players trusted him. Veterans rallied around him. The Ravens rarely collapsed, rarely embarrassed themselves, and rarely drifted into irrelevance. For most franchises, that alone would be enough to justify lifetime job security. But the modern NFL does not reward stability unless it produces championships. Over the last several seasons, Baltimore repeatedly entered the year as a Super Bowl contender, and repeatedly those seasons ended with the same questions. Why did the offense stall in critical moments? Why did game management unravel late? Why did schematic adjustments lag behind elite opponents in January? Why did injuries consistently derail the team without a viable contingency plan? At some point, explanations turn into patterns. The 2025 season exposed those patterns more clearly than ever. Baltimore began the year with Super Bowl expectations and a roster built to win immediately. Derrick Henry's presence signaled urgency. This was not a developmental roster. It was a win-now team. When injuries struck, particularly to Lamar Jackson, the Ravens simply could not compensate. Their margin for error vanished. The offense sputtered. Close games tilted the wrong way. And once again, the season hinged on a single late-game moment that went wrong. The missed 44-yard field goal against Pittsburgh didn't get Harbaugh fired by itself, but it symbolized something the front office could no longer ignore. When pressure peaked, Baltimore too often came up short. Internally, frustration had been building. Reports of tension between Harbaugh and the front office, particularly regarding offensive philosophy and staff decisions, suggest that alignment had eroded. The refusal to consider moving on from offensive coordinator Todd Monken became a flashpoint, not because Monken alone was the problem, but because it represented rigidity at a time when the organization wanted flexibility. NFL teams at the highest level evolve ruthlessly. Schemes change, philosophies shift, coaching staffs are constantly recalibrated to maximize quarterbacks. The Ravens appeared caught between loyalty and adaptation, and ownership ultimately decided loyalty was costing them time. Time matters because Lamar Jackson is 28. This firing is fundamentally about Lamar Jackson. The Ravens did not move on from Harbaugh because he failed them historically. They moved on because they believe his presence no longer maximizes Jackson's remaining prime years. Jackson's era has produced division titles, double-digit wins, and MVP awards, but not the postseason dominance that franchises crave once they have an elite quarterback. Baltimore looked at that record and asked a painful question. If this is the ceiling under John Harbaugh, is that acceptable? The answer was no. The decision reflects a growing league-wide belief that elite quarterbacks need elite offensive alignment from the top down. The coach doesn't necessarily need to be an offensive guru, but the structure must be modern, aggressive, and adaptable. Harbaugh's background, leadership style, and loyalty to his staff may have once been strengths, but in today's NFL, they risk becoming constraints. That doesn't mean Harbaugh failed. It means the league passed him in specific ways. This also raises a broader question about accountability. When a team consistently underachieves relative to talent, responsibility eventually flows upward. The Ravens have drafted well, developed stars, and maintained defensive excellence. Yet their postseason resume with Jackson remains thin. Ownership ultimately decided that systemic change, not incremental tweaks, was required. From Harbaugh's perspective, the ending is unfair but unsurprising. He survived multiple roster transitions, quarterback changes, and philosophical shifts. Few coaches ever get the chance to stay as long as he did. But longevity can become its own liability. Familiarity breeds comfort, and comfort breeds stagnation, even in successful organizations. For the Ravens, this is a gamble. There is no guarantee the next coach will be better. There is no guarantee a new voice will unlock postseason success. What is guaranteed is disruption. Culture will change, staff will turn over, player relationships will reset. The Ravens are betting that short-term discomfort will lead to long-term payoff. They are also sending a message to the locker room and the league. No one is bigger than the pursuit of championships. That message cuts both ways. It energizes ambition, but it also introduces pressure. The next coach will inherit a roster built to win immediately and a quarterback whose window cannot be wasted. There will be no grace period, no rebuilding buffer. Success will be measured quickly and harshly. John Harbaugh leaves behind a legacy that will be honored in Baltimore. He is one of the most successful coaches in franchise history and one of the most respected figures in the NFL. But his firing underscores an uncomfortable truth of professional sports. Legacy protects your reputation, not your job. This move was not about erasing the past. It was about redefining the future. The Ravens believe the next phase of their identity must revolve around maximizing Lamar Jackson at all costs, strategically, philosophically, and structurally. Whether that belief proves correct will define the next decade of Baltimore football. For now, one thing is clear. An era defined by consistency has ended, replaced by an era driven by urgency. The firing of John Harbaugh is not just a coaching change. It is a philosophical reset for the Baltimore Ravens, a franchise that has long prided itself on stability, identity, and continuity. When an organization parts ways with a head coach after 18 seasons, especially one who delivered a Super Bowl, consistent winning records, and national credibility, it signals that something deeper than a single losing season has fractured. To understand what this move truly means, you have to look beyond the final 8-9 record and the missed field goal that ended Baltimore's season. This decision was years in the making, shaped by unmet expectations, shifting NFL realities, and a growing sense that the Ravens were stuck in a familiar loop. Good enough to contend, but not good enough to finish the job. From the moment Lamar Jackson emerged as a superstar, the Ravens entered a new competitive phase. Jackson didn't just raise the team's ceiling, he raised its urgency. With a two-time MVP quarterback